Hello, this is Unexplained America, and I'm your host, Lisa. And today we are covering the Faith Hedgepeth Case. And this is a request from our friend Parker on YouTube. So thanks, Parker, for the request. Now, a little business. To purchase merch, please go to the website. And I will say I'm having website woes right now, but it will be fixed by the time this episode comes out. So it's unexplainedamerica.com. So head to the website. And for bonus episodes that you cannot hear on like my platform, you can go to my Patreon. So the show notes include a link to the Patreon. And currently I am working on JFK. So this is the Patreon's bonus episode for August, but there is so much out there. So I've covered Titanic, I've covered Lizzie Borden, I've covered the Long Island serial killer. There is just so much more out there. So if you want more content and to support the podcast, go join the Patreon. So thanks. So we will get started on this very sad but very, very active case. Now, I'll admit, I knew nothing about this case. I had not heard anything about this case. This case is out of North Carolina, and it's just, I hadn't heard anything about it. So I'm very thankful to Parker for bringing it to my attention because it's just a very important case. I'm glad that I was able to look at this case and that we're going to talk about Faith and just everything about her. So on September 7th of 2012, 19-year-old college student Faith Hedgepeth was found murdered in her off-campus apartment. Almost exactly 9 years after Faith's murder, the police will make an arrest of a male suspect via DNA technology and a very active and determined police department. Let's go back. Let's look at Faith. Who was Faith? And again, she was only 19 years old in 2012. Now, Faith Danielle Hedgepeth was born September 26 of 1992 in Warrenton, North Carolina. Now, she actually lived and grew up in a remote town about maybe like 20 miles from Warrenton. And I wouldn't even call this a town. It's more like a community called Hollister, and it's in North Carolina. Now, her father, Roland, said from the very beginning, Faith was the prettiest little thing inside and out. She was very petite, very pretty, just straight from the start. Now, Faith's mom's name is Connie, and Faith was born the fourth and youngest child to Roland and Connie. Now, having, at the time that Faith was born, they had Rolanda, who was their firstborn, and she was 18 years old at the time that Faith was born. And then Faith did have two older brothers, Chad and then Caleb. So in the small community of Hollister where Faith grew up, where her family was, like this community is about 55% Native American peoples, and they belong to a tribe called the Haliwa-Sopami tribe. Now, Faith was a very active member in the tribe from the time she was young, and she was very proud of her heritage. She was active in the form of participating like meetings, powwows, volunteer work. Like she was just very involved. And she was also very involved in school. And she was always top of her class in her studies. Now, Faith's parents divorced when Faith is about 8 years old, but she remains very close to both of her parents. And Connie, Faith's mom, and I will say Rolanda being 18 years old, she was like a second mother to Faith. So she was very close with her family, very close with her family, her tribe, her community. Connie, Faith's mom, said that they had a very special, close relationship. Faith was a very good child. She never gave her parents any trouble. She was friendly and good-hearted. She was just a joy. Now, in school, Faith was, like I said, she was very involved with her studies. She was an honor student, an honor graduate. She was a cheerleader. She participated in several clubs. She was just extremely active. And her family, knowing that she was just so smart and bright, they just knew that she was going to get a higher education. Like she was definitely going to college, and they just knew that. And she had lots of scholarship opportunities through her hard work and abilities. And one of the many scholarships that she had lined up whenever she graduated high school was the Gates Millennial Scholarship, which is based on Bill and Melinda Gates. They have a foundation, but this scholarship only is given to extremely high achieving individuals and ethnic minorities. So this was something that was very hard to get, and Faith received it. Like she was high achieving for sure. So Faith does graduate high school in May of 2010 from Warren County High School. And in the fall, she begins as a freshman at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. Very prestigious. I'll call it UNC, is the oldest public university in America, dating back to like 1785 or so. This is the Tar Heels. I know my husband is a college basketball, football freak. He definitely knew all about this school and such. And this school does boast some very famous people that went to school there that went on campus. But Michael Jordan, yes. Andy Griffith, if you know who that is, if you're old enough to know who that is, I'm barely. The novelist Thomas Wolfe. Lots of famous people. This is a very prestigious school, and this was very important to Faith to go. Now, Faith's father had attended this school, but he didn't graduate. So Faith was determined to be the first one in her family to graduate college. And she was very driven, very smart. On top of that, she had her goal set on being a pediatrician. Like, she loved kids. She wanted to work with kids. She had her goal set high, so she was going to be a doctor. Faith begins her college life at UNC Chapel Hill in the fall of 2010. And so Chapel Hill, North Carolina, is only about an hour or so from where Faith was living, like her hometown. So it's not a huge far drive. I'm sure her parents were elated about this. So I have a senior this year, and we're looking at schools that are 3 hours away. So 1 hour away would be awesome. Now, she does begin in the fall of 2010. She does begin living in the dorms her freshman year, and then we'll kind of get into it. It looks like she definitely moved off campus by her sophomore year, but we'll talk about that. So in 2010, she begins. Just like in high school, Faith is doing very well socially. She's very active on campus. She's making a lot of friends and just really getting into the college experience, the college life. It does say that she was working while she was in school for just like spending money and such. Now, there is an indication that by the spring of 2012, she had actually taken a semester off. And she is listed, okay, and I will say she's very young. At the time of her death in 2012, she was almost 20. So she was, I would call her a young freshman whenever she started, I would say. She goes through 2010, 2011, but by the spring, like I said, of 2012, it said that she had taken a semester off. She was waiting for her financial aid to kick in for the fall of 2012. And so she was like living off campus. She was working. It said that she was actually working at Red Robin restaurant at the time of her death. So just FYI, she was just kind of still in school, but evidently had taken a little time off, and it doesn't say why or whatever. Faith does have a very best friend that she met her freshman year, and her name is Karina Rosario. Now, Karina and Faith had been very close. They were best friends. They were like sisters. I will say they look a lot alike, and I will be posting pictures whenever this episode comes out, but they looked a lot alike. Now, Karina was said to be more quiet and reserved, and Faith was described as like the extrovert and outgoing, and so they kind of had that difference about them, and that they just meshed well. Faith was temporarily living with Karina. Karina had like a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom place off campus in an apartment on Old Durham Road. And it was in Chapel Hill, this apartment complex. I think it's changed names now, but it was only about 5 miles from UNC campus, okay? And Faith was actively working on getting her own place. Again, this is 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment, very small. And actually, Karina had just moved into this apartment. It's unclear if she had moved in from like a different apartment. I think she did. I think she had been in a close by apartment and moved into this apartment. So anyway, but she had just moved in. Karina had just moved in, and basically she was just letting Faith stay with her. Again, one bedroom. On Thursday, September 6th of 2012, Karina would recount for police that Faith had attended a sorority event at another apartment complex, so it's someone's apartment, that day. But by 7 p.m., Karina and Faith had gone to the Davis Library, which is the student library on campus. Now, they were working on writing papers for a class, okay? They stayed at the library until around 11:30, and then they went back to the apartment. And then they decided to go out to a local club called The Thrill, and that was located downtown about 3 miles from the apartment. And it was a very popular kind of nightclub, popular with undergraduates because it allowed in kids under the age of 21. So basically, you had to be 18 to get in instead of 21. So that made it very popular for the college kids. So they arrive at the club, according to Karina, around 1. They dance, they have drinks, they connect with friends. Now, Karina says that she starts to feel sick, maybe alcohol, moving, whatever's going on, but she's not feeling good. So she asks Faith to take her home. So they leave the club around 2, and then and I will say, the going and coming from the club is verified via the club surveillance video. So that is verified. Now the girls head back to the apartment where she ends up getting sick, like Faith's helping her out. Karina's just in the bathroom throwing up, and Faith goes on, after Karina's okay, Karina's just kind of slumped in the bathroom resting, and Faith goes to bed. Now Karina, after all of that, she starts to feel better, and she begins texting a few different guys. Now, one was named Jordan, and he is a male friend on the UNC soccer team. And he actually responds, and he actually comes to pick her up around 4:25. And she says that she leaves the apartment and she goes with Jordan. Now, she does tell the police that she does not lock the door behind her. She stated that Faith was asleep, so she didn't want to wake her up to come lock it behind her, and something about not having the key. So she just leaves. She leaves the door unlocked, and this is around 4:25. This is let's just say 4:30 now on Friday, September 7th of 2012. Now, the next morning, Karina wakes up. She tries to get in touch with Faith because, it sounds like she needs a ride. And she also had a paper due. So she says that she was trying to reach out to Faith to either come get her or to make sure that she could get her paper to her class. But Faith is not responding. So after trying to get Faith, she does get in touch with another mutual friend, and this friend is named Marisol. So Marisol actually comes and takes up Karina wherever she was with Jordan, and then Marisol drives her to the apartment complex. They're just thinking that Faith has overslept, and that's why she hadn't been answering. So the girls have no idea. This isn't really normal, but they're just thinking, okay, we had a late night. The two girls get to the apartment, and they enter the apartment, and they're calling out Faith's name, and they go to the bedroom, and they find Faith there, and there's blood everywhere, and they know that something is very wrong. Now, Karina calls 911, and it is 11:01 a.m. on September 7th when this 911 call comes in. Now, I will insert about 3 minutes or so of the call. The whole call is about 6 to 7 minutes. So I'm going to insert that here.
911. Where is your emergency?
I just walked into my apartment and my friend was just being unconscious.
Okay, what's your address, ma'am?
I live at Hawkins.
That's you?
Give me the address. I just moved here. I'm about to get it. Oh my God. It's 5639 Old Capitol Hill Road in Durham.
Okay, repeat it to me to make sure I've got it correct.
Okay. 5639 Old Capitol Hill Road. Okay, what's it? No.
1602. What's the phone number you're calling from? No, 3, 2, 1.
8075.
Okay. You say your friend is unconscious?
He's unconscious.
Is this Foxy?
Okay, listen to me. Listen to me. Somebody's already sending me an ambulance. Okay, I need to get some information from you, and I'm gonna help. I'm gonna tell you how to help her. Okay. Okay. How old is he?
He's 19.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't want to touch her, but
Listen to me. Is she breathing?
I don't know.
You need to check and see if she's breathing.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Okay, listen to me.
There's blood everywhere.
There's what?
There's blood everywhere.
Okay.
I don't know what's up there.
Okay, is she on her back or is she on her laying on her stomach?
She's on her back, but like I think she fell off the bed. She's like off the bed. There's blood all over the pillows, like in the comforter. I just don't know what happened.
Okay. All right, listen to me, all right?
There's someone coming.
Yes, I've got somebody coming. I need for you to help her. I need for you to go up to her. We need to see if she's breathing or not. Okay?
I think so.
Okay. Listen to me. Go up. The paramedics are on their way. I want you to stay on the line. I'm going to tell you what to do next, all right? Are you right by her now?
Yeah.
Okay. Listen carefully. She's not moving. Okay.
No.
Can you touch her arm? Tell me, does she feel?
Not moving.
Okay, and we need to find out if we can help her or not. You've got to, do as I'm asking so we can help her. All right? Okay, if you can, lay her flat on her back. Remove any pillow. Lay her flat on her back. Flat on her backs. Remove any pillow. Okay. Kneel next to her. Look at her mouth. Look at her vomit. Okay. Kneel next to her. Look in her mouth.
Now, the 911 operator does ask Karina to lay Faith on her back and check for breathing. So she's trying to calm Karina down, and she's trying to see if there's any way possible that, this person is alive, basically. So she asked Faith to feel like, she asked Karina to feel Faith and ask, okay, is she warm? And Karina tells the 911 operator, no, she's cold. Now, after this, the 911 operator instructs Karina to not touch anything. She asks what room, she's in. She's like, what room are you in? And Karina says the bedroom. So the 911 operator says police are on their way. Just go back into the living room. Just wait for the police there. So this operator is just trying to make sure, at least at this point, that the scene is okay for when the police get there, because she can tell that there's nothing more that Karina could do for Faith. Now, just listener discretion on this part. This is obviously discussing murder. It's discussing possible, sexual assault and such. So yes, so trigger warning. Now, the police arrive at the apartment and find Faith in the one bedroom. On the bed, she is face up. They find her body kind of hanging off the bed over a pool of blood. And she's wearing a black t-shirt, and it's pulled up over her head. She had no clothes on from her waist down, and she was wrapped partially in a comforter, or quilt, they mentioned. They see blood splatter on the closet, and they find a bloody tampon lying beside Faith on the bed. Now, in the center of the bed, they find a small white paper bag with the writing, "I'm not stupid, bitch, jealous." Now, it's written in what appears to be black ink in all capital letters. Now, when the police pull down the t-shirt, they realize Faith has suffered a horrible beating to her face and head. Both of her eyes are purple. Her hair is matted down with blood. She has a large indentation in her forehead. And in the autopsy, which they can tell that she has a lot of trauma to her head, and they believe she's been sexually assaulted. Now, and I will say she does have blood under her fingernails. They can see that. So there's just blood everywhere. Now, on the day Faith was killed, Connie, her mom, is at work. She receives a phone call telling her Faith was gone. She is shocked. She cannot believe this. She's like, this cannot be my daughter. This has to be a mistake. So Connie and the family, they get in the car. They make the trip to Chapel Hill. Now they go straight to the apartment, which is already roped off. Like there's police and people like milling around or everywhere, and the apartment's roped off. The police tell the family that it would be best not to look at Faith in the condition that she was in. And Connie just wants to hold, Faith. This is absolutely devastating. This is her baby girl. That's when the family, so they didn't tell them over the phone. They didn't tell them anything until they got there. But the family is told that Faith was murdered. And they just lose it. They cannot fathom who would murder their baby girl. They cannot understand. It's just unthinkable to them. Now, police, they're working the scene. They do find an empty rum bottle with blood on it. And they feel like the bottle could be the murder weapon. They do collect DNA from the bottle. They also find semen next to Faith's bed, and they collect this as well. So they're collecting all kinds of evidence, and they're working the crime scene. Now, the police feel this appears to be a very personal attack, and in the days to come, they even express to the media, who were on the scene right away, that Faith probably knew her killer. They released that this was not just some random attack is what they're releasing. Now the police, okay. And right from the start, the police begin interviewing, of course, Karina, Marisol, like everyone in Faith's circle. Now, Karina fills them in on all the events which I mentioned on the 6th. So that was her story of everything that she knew about with her and Faith being together and just everything about the 6th leading into the 7th. Now, by the night of the 7th, so Faith's murder has spread across campus. Like I said, the media was alerted. Coverage was huge. The whole community was shocked and upset. All the friends are finding out, and they're absolutely devastated. Now, one of Faith's friends, Una, she hears the news and then realizes she had a voicemail from Faith from the middle of the night before. So basically, and it would have been the 7th, but it was in the night. She realized it was like music playing in the background. It was very staticky. It sounded like fabric rubbing the phone. Like when Una received the call, she felt like it was a butt dial. And she had actually deleted it. So she deleted it just thinking that happened. And evidently Faith was known to butt dial her friends quite often. Now, she does call her cell phone provider, and they are able to walk her through getting her voicemail back. And again, remember, this is 2012. Right now, it's very easy to get your voicemail back, but she actually had to call her cell phone provider and get that. So Una does go to the police with the voicemail. And of course, all of, Faith's inner circle are being interviewed. Everyone's being talked to. Now, the police do see the timestamp of Una's voicemail from Faith is 1:23. So they knew this was at the time when Faith was at the club, The Thrill. Now, police do get a warrant to check out Faith's cell phone. In fact, they file warrants to look at Faith's cell phone, at the apartment, of course. They have to file searches to get access to her social medias and everything, like her Facebook. And they are doing this not just on Faith, but everyone that they can, Karina included. Now, they do find after they get access to Faith's cell phone is that Faith didn't quite go to sleep right away. So she was, while she was at the apartment after they got there at about 2 something, she was on the phone and she was texting 2 different men. So immediately one of the men is brought into questioning. His name is Brandon. So he is a friend to Faith and to Karina, closer to Karina. He is actually involved in kind of a casual sexual relationship with Karina. And he was actually, so Karina had been texting two guys. So she actually texted Brandon first, and then he didn't respond. So then she, the one that responded was Jordan, and he was the one that picked her up. So Karina was texting both men. Now, Faith had texted Brandon and said, "Hey, B, Karina needs you more than you know. Come over here." And he responds to this, "Who is this?" So the police are like, he didn't even have Faith's phone number saved in his phone. So he didn't even know who she was when she texted. Now, he tells police he had actually been to the apartment earlier that week. He had actually spent the night on the couch on September 5th, and he also admitted to being at the Thrill the same time as the girls on the 7th. And he swears that he had nothing to do with the murder. Okay, so they do search Brandon's car. They swab for DNA, and nothing ever comes about anything from his car, and his DNA does not match the DNA at the crime scene. So he is looked at, but he is released as far as being any type of quote-unquote suspect. Now, the police focus on another man. So this man that received Faith's final outgoing text, which the final outgoing text from Faith, so she was awake at 3:43 a.m. on the 7th. So this was actually an ex-boyfriend of Faith's. His name was Ty McNeil. He was older than Faith, but he went to UNC as well. He was brought in for questioning. Now, when he actually gets to the police station, Faith's parents are there, and they actually talk to him. They ask him when was the last time he spoke to Faith. He tells them how she had texted him. They ask to look at the text, and so he shows them, and he didn't understand that, the text was like how she missed him and how they should get back together, and that was kind of weird to Ty. So her parents, again, they look at the text and notice a misspelling in the text, and they kind of immediately felt like that wasn't Faith that actually texted Ty. So they just didn't believe that she would make the misspelling that she did. So I don't know if that will be a deal in this case at all, or if it's just the 3:43 a.m. of it all, and she just kind of fat-fingered that text or something. I know a lot of people that are, very bright that still make a lot of, it's text. I wonder if that will be brought up. And the text did say, "I know you're sleeping." And that was the situation with the way that she said "you're," that, her parents felt like that was not something that Faith would have said, or mispunctuated, I guess. Ty willingly speaks to police. He gives them his DNA sample, and his sample, just like Brandon, comes back not matching the crime scene DNA. So he is also released from being a suspect. All while the police are working the case, of course, Faith's poor family and friends, they're having to deal with the loss. And they do hold Faith's funeral on Wednesday, September 12th at Mount Bethel Baptist Church. And it is an open casket funeral. There are 1,000 people in attendance. There are hundreds from her community, hundreds from her tribe, and hundreds from her school. It said about 300 to 400 students came to her funeral. And also in attendance is the media. And they do report on all kinds of words expressed by everyone in attendance, and how Faith was so kind and bubbly. She had an infectious smile, and she touched every soul, and just tons of wonderful things to say about Faith. She was just a wonderful, beautiful young girl. Now, simultaneously with all of this, the board of trustees at UNC, they post a $25,000 reward for whomever had information leading to the arrest of Faith's murder. Plus, her tribe pledged $1,000 on top of that. So everyone was very invested in Faith's murderer being found. Further investigation is going on. Of course, the police are looking at Faith's friends and everything about it. So police find out Karina, in July, just a couple of months, before this happened, she had filed a restraining order against a guy named Eric Jones. Now, she had dated Eric. They had broken up. It was not an easy breakup. Karina had even had to change the locks. And, when she did the restraining order put in place, because Eric, after she allegedly, some reports say that he had lived in the apartment, and then another report said that he lived in the apartment above. Either way, he was spending a lot of time over there. But after they broke up, he did literally kick in the door to the apartment, looking for Karina. Having found Karina in the apartment, he grabs her phone out of her hand. He throws it. He pushes her down. He was just being extremely scary and violent, obviously. And Faith did not like Eric. Obviously, she's Karina's best friend. Karina's going through this horrible time with him. And Faith is the person that urges Karina to actually go file the restraining order. And she actually drives, Karina to the courthouse and everything to get this all done. So Eric, on the flip side, does not like Faith after all of this because of her involvement or perceived involvement with his relationship with Karina. And he perceives her as getting in the way, quote unquote. Now, Faith had told her friends Eric had actually threatened to kill her if he and Karina did not get back together. Now, the police then learned, so Eric actually, he had this restraining order, but he was still living in the same apartment complex as the girls. I kind of looked it up on the map. There's just several apartment complexes grouped together, and I think they have a different name as they had in 2012, but basically it's just a huge apartment complex, and many, students and young people lived in them. So he was just a couple of buildings away from them. And even during the commotion, so Eric, having seen the commotion of the police and the media on the 7th, he is actually one of the very first people at the scene, and he is actually interviewed at the scene by reporters. And he says in the interview, on, video, on the news, he says, quote unquote, "Faith is the sweetest person in the world. I cannot believe anything like that has happened. I'm still in shock." He even says, "Whoever did this deserves to burn." This is what he's saying, for cameras. Now, the police get access to his social media, and he had posted, on Facebook the day before the murder, he posted kind of something the police were looking at. "Dear Lord, forgive me for all my sins and the sins I may commit today. Protect me from the girls who don't deserve me and the ones who wish me dead today." So the police are actively looking at Jones. Now, they interrogate Jones and they get his DNA. They get a search warrant for his apartment and his car. They look everywhere, and they do end up taking some, they said, papers from his apartment, but ultimately nothing links him to the murder. There's no evidence. His DNA does not match. So this is another dead end. Now, the police will continue to look at suspects, and they will, over the course of the investigation, take over 200 DNA swabs, by the way. So there is so much that they're looking into. Now, by December of 2012, the Chapel Hill Police Department, they do get assistance from the FBI. So they are actively working this case. I will say it's the Chapel Hill Police Department. They get their SBI, which is their state's Bureau of Investigation. But again, by December, they get assistance from the FBI. The FBI puts together a profile. They believe the suspect is male. And some of the things about the suspect is they said that he would either have known Faith or lived close to her before, but knew her, at least a little bit. They also believe the suspect would take on an unusual interest in the case and demonstrate behavioral changes after he committed the murder. The media attention does die down, but the police are still very actively investigating Faith's case. They're never giving up. They're holding press conferences. They are interviewing. They have this DNA. They're very active in this case. And of course, they do have a DNA profile of an individual, and they are just, sitting on it. They're doing, I wouldn't even say sitting on it, but actively working to figure out who this individual is. Additionally, in the beginning, the Chapel Hill Police Department, they do get Faith's autopsy sealed. So her autopsy is sealed from the beginning. A lot of, the media is trying to get access to it. So her parents, they are told the results, and they do release to the media and confirm that they understood that Faith's manner of death was a beating, a blunt force trauma to the head. And that is said. Now, finally, I will say, in order to, time passes, there aren't any arrests, and to reignite the investigation in July of 2014, the Chapel Hill Police, they decide to release hundreds of documents on the case. The most interesting, and it is said that they released the autopsy report, which does show blunt force trauma to the head. Faith had cuts and bruises. But that was the manner of death, like blunt force trauma to her head. Now, the most interesting item that's released to the public is that 911 call that I played for you all. And the call is scrutinized, and people hone in on the words of Karina, the words that she mentioned, because she does say, my friend is unconscious. So they are honing in on that. They are really scrutinizing everything. And another thing people wonder is the absence of Karina using Faith's name. She does say my friend. And when I listen to that, I think at least she didn't say some girl. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what you do in that circumstance. I will say she sounded upset, but that put this 911 call being out there put a lot of suspicion on Karina. And also more scrutiny on the note left on the bag that was left, and wondering if the note was written by a female as opposed to a male. Because they do release that bag, and it is actually like a biscuit bag from a popular Chapel Hill restaurant called Time Out. So this note is written on that kind of bag, and I will say, from what I understood, the bag, and this may be wrong, but from everything that I can read, the bag did not have blood on it. So that was kind of weird. It was almost thrown on the bed after the fact or something. People are scrutinizing. They're scrutinizing that this was written by a female, and that Marina, her words, so she is being scrutinized. Now, many friends of Karina do jump to her defense. The friends note how devastated Karina was after Faith's death, that she was always 100% cooperative with the police, and Karina is never listed as a suspect. The police never say that or anything. Now, the case continues to be worked, but continues to be cold at the same time. So until 2016. Now, in January of 2016, a forensic audio expert named Arlo West, so the police asked him to analyze the voicemail sent to Una, just to see if he could make it more audible, okay? Now, he enhances the audio, and what he finds is he believes he's hearing 4 different voices. He says he hears 2 female and then 2 male. And one of the female is saying, out of my head, help me, get off me. Another female is sounding mad, saying, F you, I'm pissed. I'm going to kick your face, bitch. I figured out that bullshit. You liar, you intentionally lied. And then don't be a pussy, put up a fight. So he's saying he hears these things. He hears a male say, I think she's dying. So this is what he says that he's hearing. Then he does hear another male say, do it anyway. He also picks up on 2 names during the recording. A male saying, I can't believe that you really did it, Rosie. And then a female saying to go get help, Eric. So the family, of course, hears this audio, and they feel like the female saying, out of my head, is Faith. They feel like that is Faith. And then they feel like the other female's voice is Karina. So that's what they're feeling. Mr. West, he feels like the timestamp of 123 is maybe not definitely the actual time. He states that both Faith and Una's cell phones have issues with time stamping and voicemails, and that the voicemail being sent incorrectly could be a different time. And the towers sending the cell phone signals at the time were very glitchy at best. So Arlo feels like the timestamp is forensically wrong. However, the police, I appreciate what you're saying, and this kind of helps, but this is the timestamp says 123, and all we know is that like all we have forensically is a timestamp of 123, and then we have video surveillance saying she was at this club between 1 and 2, and then of course they have tons of people at this club that can state what happened at the club, and again they see the girls coming and going. The cops ultimately have to dismiss Arlo's voicemail evidence, and I don't know if this evidence will even come into play at the trial. I cannot imagine it will, based on any of this and the timestamp. I can't imagine that it will come out. That's what was said. Now, the police do reach out to an organization called Parabon Nano Labs. Now, they conduct a process called phenotyping. This is taking DNA from the crime scene and then turning that DNA into a 3D image of the suspect, like creating like a drawing basically of the DNA. So they can say like skin color, eye color, hair color. Now, this was a super new science, but after a month or so, the lab is working on it, and they do find the phenotyping produces an image of a male. He has olive skin and dark hair. His eyes are going to be, according to this phenotyping, hazel or brown. Now, this person was Latino descent, and of course, the cops are looking at Eric and then the other men swabbed, and like Eric and Jordan and Ty, they are not Latino, so they are just one more thing that adds up that it wasn't them. But of course, they had already looked at the DNA and it was not them. Now, the police do release the image, and they do receive an influx of calls. So the case is once again alive with this image being produced and put out. Now, Faith's family, in many interviews in 2010, so they express that they feel like Karina knows more about Faith's murder. They're not necessarily saying that she killed Faith, but they feel in their heart that she knows more about what happened to Faith than what she was letting on. In the meantime, so this is 2020, and this has been 8 years now. So in the meantime, the Chapel Hill Police Department and the SBI, which again is the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation, they are working hard on finding the suspect via genealogy, DNA. And I know that you guys have followed, of course, the Kohberger case, the Idaho, murders, and how that's, basically they had his DNA profile. And so they were able to basically work up a genealogy tree. So they kind of, what I'm guessing, and I am not obviously expertised in any of this, but what I'm guessing is based on what I've seen is that they just build up these names in this database if they have their DNA. And so they're able to just kind of start building up a family tree that kind of led them, like in the Kohberger case, led them to Brian. Now, in this case, that is what they're doing. They're taking this profile and they're putting together like a family tree based on this DNA profile. Now, in September of 2021, Faith's family's dreams come true. On Thursday, September 16th of 21, the Chapel Hill Police Department announced the arrest of a man named Miguel Enrique Salguero Olivares. I'm going to call him Olivares. And he is arrested for the first-degree murder of Faith Hedgepeth. Now, Connie states, "When I got the news, I couldn't do anything but cry and thank God." And Roland expressed, "It's been a long 9 years, but I thank God for this day and to be alive to see this day." It's just, I can't even imagine their pain, their grief, their suffering, but this was almost exactly 9 years to the date of Faith's murder that this is in the news and they are told about the arrest. Now, Olivares, he is 28 years old at the time of his arrest. He is in 2012. He was living in Chapel Hill. They had actually arrested him on August 16th of 21. So he was found in a vehicle in Raleigh, I guess kind of dozing off or unconscious. It's unclear. But he was in Raleigh, North Carolina, which is 20 miles or so to the southeast from Chapel Hill. He was found in a vehicle. He appeared intoxicated. He had open containers. He was slurring his speech. They charged him with driving while impaired. He had a blood alcohol level of 0.2, twice the legal limit. He was driving without a secure driver's license, no insurance. The car was not properly registered. He, again, had the open container. So they're hitting him with all these charges. Now, at that time, he does list his address as Chapel Hill. So it's saying he lives in Chapel Hill even at that time. Now, he is bonded out. He gets out of jail, but he fails to appear in court and he is arrested. So he's arrested in September. Now, during this ordeal, according to everything that I've read, the police took his DNA. Of course, they would have had to take his blood alcohol. So they have his DNA, and they don't have, it's not like they asked him to submit it, but they have his DNA. They submit his DNA on September 12th, and it matches up with the DNA found at Faith's apartment. So what I'm thinking, of course, I could be very wrong. They had already been doing this genealogy, and he is arrested. His name probably pops up in this field as maybe a related person. And so then they're like, okay, we need to see if he's a match. And he's a match. Thus the arrest on the 16th. And then as soon as he is arrested, they are, conducting search warrants on all of his properties and him. This is really when the investigation begins, because he was not on their radar. They've only arrested him because of his match, his DNA match, which this is amazing. I know I watch Forensic Files, I'm sure that you guys do, but this is so awesome. It's awesome. So upon the police announcing the arrest to the public, they do ask for their patience because they're not releasing any information. They're not telling, does Oliveris, did he know Faith? What's the connection? They're not releasing any information because, again, this is just the kickoff point to the investigation, just the beginning. Now, Oliveris, he pleads not guilty to the charge. He has a defense underway. And then, so this was September of 21. Fast forward, and he is being held at the Durham County Jail, still to this day. Now, fast forward to November of 24, he actually, now that the state was basically investigating, they're needing to put together all the background and look at everything and interview and track him down over this whole time period and all over the 2012 time period. So the state is investigating, and they now, in November 24, they add more charges to him. So, of course, they got him on the first-degree murder charge, but they charge him on rape, sexual assault, and burglary are added to the first-degree murder charge. And this is November of 24. Now, at this time, and still at this time, the state is not seeking the death penalty, but they're seeking, of course, it's going to be life imprisonment if they can get a conviction. Since even November, Oliveris' defense, of course, they are working as well, just like the state, and they are filing all kinds of motions. The newest motions, and these were literally filed this year, are pointing fingers at Karina. They are wanting evidence tested on blood found in the apartment, there was a blood stain found in the apartment's bathroom near where Karina stated she was before she left the apartment with Jordan. Now, this is their defense angle, just FYI, at least based on everything that I'm seeing. Now, Oliveris, on top of all this trouble, he is in trouble with drugs. So this year, he gets in trouble. They find that he has possession of methamphetamine and all the drug paraphernalia in his jail cell. So they charge him with possession and intent to distribute the meth. So all of these charges on top of the Faith case. So he's got charges pending and his defense working in Faith's case. And now he has been in and out of court with the drug charges, and it looks like he's supposed to go back to court for the drug charges in September. Like, I think court date at this point was set for the 29th. Now, I've not seen anything concrete about when he will actually go to trial for Faith's case. Now, I will say this is obviously long from over. He is pleading innocent. His defense is working. Really, this is not done. And I will definitely have a follow-up episode, but I will not have a follow-up episode until after the trial so that we can hopefully for the family, justice will prevail on this, and we'll get to see all the evidence and all the documents, and then I'll be able to go through the actual court documents, and those will be released. So, I will keep you all posted when I actually see. So I will be posting on my social medias any information that I see on Faith's case as it comes. I don't know, obviously we don't know when, we don't know where, we don't know if it'll be televised. I assume it will be on court TV, but we don't know. And again, my next episode on this will come after the fact so that I can fully go through the actual court documents. So I really, this case, like I said, I didn't know anything about it. Thank you, Parker, for putting it as a request. And, I really, feel so bad for the Hedgepeth family. Faith was amazing. She was 19 years old. She shouldn't have been killed, period. And it's just amazing how well the Chapel Hill Police Department and then the whole, state investigators and the FBI have worked really hard on her case. And so that is amazing. I know that the Hedgepeths had also worked hard on the case. They had a private investigator working it as well. Of course, this was, their baby girl, and they want this solved. So I pray that everything comes out well for them, for sure. And we will be watching. And like I said, I will have a follow-up episode. It may be a year. I don't know. So it's already been, 4 years since the initial arrest. So 4 years next month. So thank you again for being with me this week for this case. Please leave a comment about this episode or about any episodes that you'd like to see. Definitely, I like requests, so send those in. And thank you for listening, and I hope you guys have a great week and just hug your family, and I pray that you all are safe. Bye.